colleague Nompo Siziba caught up with Shoprite CEO Waite Basson. She started off by asking if the lackluster results were a sign of the times we're living in.
What has been the problem is that the South African portion of our business, purely due to economic conditions of growth rates dropping to the 2% level, has been a hard fight to maintain growth in excess of 10%. If you're looking at the profit portion of the business, there are so many investments in Africa, which is all on the sense that shows that basically there were write-offs done, not write-offs, but write-offs in terms of legislation done, which affects the figure but doesn't really affect the figure from an analyst point of view. So I think you will probably, now that we've done the presentation, the analysts will readjust their end-line figure to the proper figure to be compatible with that of the past. But basically it's originated from having most of our stores opening up in the last quarter of the financial year with wages, salaries, rentals, ways of reporting rentals that had that major effect.
Given the dynamics in the South African market, how have you been seeing demand and how have you been responding to it?
Demand is still slow in the lower end of the market. The lower LSMs are not in good shape. Debt is too high, which is a result of joblessness. I mean, people are always complaining that people don't want to pay. There's nobody that I know that doesn't want to pay, but if you don't have the money to pay, your debt is bad. And what has happened, this is an accumulation of maybe people that have given too high debt and people that have lost jobs or haven't been able to maintain a steady sort of increase, even remotely close to inflation rates. And that has to bottleneck. People get children, they have to spend. If they don't have a job, they must go and ask somebody to lend them the money. If you want a new bed because you've got a new baby, you can't make her sleep in the tree. So this is a function of not just private industry, banks, etc. It's a function of all of us, including government, to say, how do we create jobs? Shoprite created nearly 12,000 jobs for the year, and we're very proud of it because at least there are 12,000 people that doesn't have to go to a adjudicator about debts and can actually pay their debts, and which I think will make them feel wonderful.
Now, I know cost control factors are very important for you. We know that you've been investing in new stores and so on and so forth, but how have you been trying to control the element of cost control?
Well, it's difficult when you have costs, say, into Africa, because there are certain areas where we can't really rein in costs. I mean, we're just not in a position to do that. But when it comes to reining in costs like electricity, for instance, which everybody is burdened with these astronomically high increases of, there we've reined in some 46 million for the current year, 100 million for next year. I think we've replaced a couple of 100,000 light bulbs. We reached a couple of 100 million points of electricity usage at different areas, so that we have contained that, and as I said, that will give us a return of 100 million rands a year. So we are very, very serious about that. But if you then ask me other costs, I mean, I can't tell Eskom, listen, don't put up the increases, or I'm not going to pay you for it to take me to debt collection. Let's cut us off. But those are areas which we can't really contain. But we haven't had much of that. I think basically our productivity is increased. Our staff has met the target set in terms of the increases in wages with increases in productivity. And for that we're lucky and good. It's really elements outside our control that creates cost movements.
I see that sales in the rest of Africa rose by 27%, quite handsome growth there. And I see that you're planning on rolling out 30 new stores. Do you plan on rolling those out in the rest of the African market?
Yeah, that'll be mostly, the majority will be in Nigeria and in Angola. And in the countries that you can basically say has a GDP growth of between 5% and 8%, because that's what our opposition does to us in Nigeria. South Africa is actually falling behind the west coast of Africa by far.
Given your exposure to West African markets and Ebola making headline news, are you making any sort of proactive movements to contain that situation or not?
Yes, we do. But, Ebola is a situation that is a real medical threat. I think it's something which can only be cured by high doses of the right tablets, if there are the right tablets of it. What we try and do is to make sure that the hygiene and cleanliness of our business is not a factor that could increase the contamination process. So we've flown up sanitizers and hand sanitizers if you go into stores, stuff that you can clean up the baskets with, etc. We actually, some of the countries we're waiting for permits to bring the stuff in, so you don't think that there's not even red tape on that. But we're doing everything possible that, as far as Shoprite is concerned, nobody will try and prevent that anybody gets contaminated in places like Nigeria or other areas where there's been an outbreak.
Shoprite CEO White Beson speaking to my colleague Nompu earlier. Well, let's see how this played out on the markets. Now, Shoprite fell by nearly 9% earlier today. It ended 5.6% in the red. A sell-off among the retailers weighing, as well as a sell-off among the resources on the JSE. It was down 0.4%, the all-share index. BHP fell by 5.5% after unveiling plans to unbundle some of its assets. The good news, perhaps, is that Capitec recovered its losses from yesterday following the downgrading of its ratings. Let's take a quick look at your main financial indicators. It's great to have you with us on Business Review. After the break, more fears of mine workers losing their jobs. Also, more shocking findings about the mining industry. I'll be speaking to the Benchmarks Foundation.